It's a great honor to be here today. The Enhanced Games is a radical idea, but it begins from a very simple premise. Why can't we be the most highest potential humans that we can be? Why can't we use technology and science to enhance human performance? For more than a century now, the International Olympic Committee has prevented the use of science in sports. They call this doping. They say that the use of steroids, testosterone, EPO, and other pharmaceutical interventions are unethical. They say that these practices are unsafe. But today I'm going to show you scientific evidence of why this is not the case, and why I have dedicated my life to making human enhancement a real possibility. And so at the Enhanced Games, I am building the next instantiation of sport. A sporting competition that allows all scientific and technological advancements, some of whom that are very thought-provoking and very challenging, but it's all backed up by rigorous science. And I will show you, we've taken in less than 2 years a simple idea and made it very real, and now are pushing huge technological barriers. So let me see if my slides work. Oh, there we go. So the first point is, what percent of athletes use performance-enhancing drugs? Well, according to research commissioned by the International Olympic Committee and the World Anti-Doping Agency, it's 44%. 44% of athletes studied by Professors Ulrich and Comstock at the World Athletics Championships admit to using banned performance enhancements, yet only 1% get caught. Now, you might say that this is just one survey, a piece of data that I've just cherry-picked. But actually, according to the World Anti-Doping Agency, they did a survey of all the doping prevalence surveys and said this is one of only 4 that were rated at the highest quality. According to Professor Yannis Pasaldis, who is a member of the World Anti-Doping Agency's scientific panel, up to 99% of elite track and field athletes, 99%, have used EPO, which is a banned substance. EPO is the drug that Lance Armstrong used to win the Tour de France. Up to 68% of females have used these drugs. And so the point that I wish to make is that the use of these substances is widespread. Almost every major athlete is using banned drugs. And the reality is that the testing doesn't work. And so instead of hiding the fact that the world's best athletes are using performance enhancements, I say, why don't we take it out into the open and make it available to everyone and benefit from that technology? So, because I firmly believe the drugs that allow athletes to run faster and jump higher are the same drugs that will allow every human being to be the best version of themselves. And I believe that aging is a disease that we can treat, cure, and eventually solve. And this new category of medicine, which I call performance medicine, is essential to that. How many of you have ever taken creatine? Do you know what this is? A few people here. So creatine is used by about 10% of American males. It started very popular in the bodybuilding community, but it's the most popular dietary supplement in America today. Creatine, when it was first released in the mid-90s after the 1996 Atlanta Olympic, was called, a super steroid. It could lead to cancer. And The Independent, and then maybe this print is a little small, that's an article from 2001, so that creatine is cheating no matter how you look at it. Right? This is 25 years ago. We viewed this substance as totally inappropriate. Right? It was morally reprehensible that athletes could use creatine. Today, creatine you can buy on Amazon.com, and you can get it at Joe and the Juice in your smoothie. And creatine is seen as the new bodybuilding supplement that boosts brain power. It has the potential to boost cognition in Alzheimer's patients. And why I bring this up as a very specific example is because if creatine were banned, like the Olympic Committee and the sports federations wanted it to be 20 years ago, we wouldn't have studied it. We wouldn't have seen its great potential. We wouldn't have allowed a new technology to emerge that has profound benefits for our health. So you might be saying to me, Aron, these are some crazy ideas you're saying here. Athletes can use drugs to enhance their performance? This is what Lance Armstrong was kicked out of the Tour de France for. This is one of the cardinal sins of the sporting world. And I'm sure my colleagues on the panel will have some thoughts about this. But let me first dispel some myths. According to Professor David Nutt at Imperial College London, publishing in The Lancet, which is one of the foremost medical journals in the entire world, anabolic steroids, self-administered, are safer than alcohol, heroin, tobacco, cannabis, right? Anabolic steroids is down here, right? Significantly safer than many things that we consider acceptable in our society. So why are they banned from sports? Why shouldn't we be able to extend our human performance? Professor Yannis Pasaldis, who's a member of the World Anti-Doping Agency's scientific panel, published this study in the Journal of Sports Medicine about a month ago. And it showed that 70% of healthcare professionals are willing to treat an enhanced athlete. And these aren't just healthcare professionals. These are the Olympic Committee's own doctors, members of the Olympic Medical Association. And 30% of them are willing to assist in the use of performance-enhancing drugs. So there's great support for what we're doing in the medical community. Now, I always say I'm not just creating the new Olympics plus drugs, I'm creating the new Olympics plus drugs and money. The problem about the Olympic Games is that the average Olympian is impoverished. In the three of the richest countries in the world, Olympians earn practically nothing. Of course, in some European countries, they do have some state support. But your average British Olympian only earns £22,000 a year. Yet the highest paid officials at the International Olympic Committee are pulling down nearly $2 million a year in direct compensation. This is a US IRS 990 filing, so this is a matter of the public record. The president of the International Olympic Committee flies around the world in a private jet. He literally lives in a palace, yet he is being paid more than 10 times more than the average athlete. The Director General of the IOC is earning 100 times as much as the average athlete. We cause great concern when the CEO of Amazon, Andrew Jassy, earns 67 times as much as his average worker. Right? The Olympic Committee president is earning 100 times as much as the average athlete. And so I firmly believe that excellence deserves to be rewarded and that every athlete deserves to be paid. This might not seem like a very controversial statement, but it's very controversial in the Olympic movement. So the members of the Olympic Committee are often very critical of what I'm saying. They say, Aron D'Souza, you are allowing drugs in sports. This is unsafe. This is unhealthy. And I say to them, who are the two longest serving sponsors of the US Olympic team? Coca-Cola and McDonald's, which have single-handedly been responsible probably for more deaths than any other industry in the totality of human history. Directly attributable to the deaths from just sweetened beverages, 340,000 a year. To ultra-processed food, on a very conservative estimate, 124,000. It gets worse. Who are the biggest sponsors of football here in Europe? In the Bundesliga, in the Premier League, it's alcohol and it is betting companies. And these are two organizations that are directly targeting children in their advertising. And FIFA and UEFA have been directly complicit in this. And the statistics speak for themselves. But here's the great irony. The World Aquatics Championship is going on right now. Their major sponsor is Corona beer. But 31% of all drowning deaths in the world are alcohol related. And so we are here to talk about the ethics of sport. And I note from meeting your wonderful president that this forum started, was it 7 years ago at the FIFA headquarters, right? There may be some irony in that. And so I truly believe that it's the time to really reform sport, to push in this new idea. Now, why did I fly across the world to come here and speak to you today? It's because Europe needs to bet on the future. I know what I'm talking about is a very bold, it's a very thought-provoking, controversial, and maybe even scary idea. But artificial intelligence is a bold, thought-provoking, and scary idea. So was social media, so was the internet. And the problem for Europe is that it was 25% of the world's GDP just 20 years ago, and today it's 16%. The largest company in Europe is, SAP, with a $400 billion market capitalization. The largest company in America is worth $4 trillion. The generous social welfare state of Europe will not be able to sustain itself unless Europe starts to believe in technology. And Switzerland in particular, with the International Olympic Committee, FIFA, and the other governing bodies here, will do everything it can to stop innovation in human enhancement. But I can assure you, in a decade's time, human enhancement will be a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Just as AI was science fiction 10 years ago, and today it is the largest and most important industry in the world, human enhancement will be the same thing. So if Europe doesn't get its act together, headlines like this will show that America is winning. I meet public policy leaders in Europe, and they're very hesitant about the enhanced games. In America, I get invited to the White House. President Trump and his family are direct investors in our company. And so this is a call to challenge for Europe. Europe needs to step up. Europe has bet against the internet, social media, energy, AI, and it shows in the economic numbers. Don't bet against human enhancement. And so simply, sport can change. From 1896 until 1992, only amateur athletes were allowed to compete at the Olympics. And now, we don't even think about amateurism as a higher moral calling. Professional athletes are not immoral, but that's what Baron Pierre de Coubertin, the inventor of the modern Olympic movement, did. So, what are we doing? Well, 2 years ago, I launched this idea with one tweet. One simple tweet, right? It wasn't with billions of dollars in funding. It wasn't with huge support. I just made one tweet, and it went viral. It got 9 million views in 24 hours. 600 news articles came out, and a global discussion began. Many articles were like this from The Spectator, which said the enhanced games could never work, right? It's immoral, it's impossible. But today, we've broken our first world record. Christian Golomev of Greece is the fastest swimmer in human history. He broke the 16-year-old world record set by Cesar Chavello, only on being enhancements for 3 weeks. Yes, 3 weeks, and I've got 3 minutes. And we paid him $1 million. Every athlete who breaks a world record at the enhanced games gets $1 million. $1 million in swimming is 10x higher than any other prize ever awarded. The first enhanced games will be in Las Vegas in May of 2026. And we are building the future of sport. And so what I would say to you is that you are empowered to make change. You don't have to wait for leaders. You don't have to wait for decision makers. You can do it. The beauty of the world that we live in today is that communities can come together in new and beautiful ways through social media. I just made one tweet on a 0-follower account, and 9 million people saw it in a day. 600 journalists followed up about it. Right? It captured the global public imagination. Venture capitalists started throwing money at the project, and now we are well on our way to building the future of sport. I know it's challenging. I know it's thought-provoking. And I know it can be scary in some dimension. However, what I would say to you is that Europe needs to embrace taking a risk. Because if you don't want to take a risk, there is no future. The massive European social welfare state is at risk. Emmanuel Macron knows this. He knows that this great experiment since the Second World War is unsustainable. And so I say to you, as Europeans, as someone who loves this place very deeply, believe in human enhancement, because this is the next great industry of the world. Thank you very much.